If you're thinking about applying for a marriage-based green card in 2025, stop what you're doing and listen. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, is rolling out one of the toughest policy shifts we've seen in years. Starting August 1st, 2025, the rules are changing, and they're not just small tweaks. We're talking stricter documentation requirements, more intense interviews, and mandatory evidence standards that could make or break your case. For years, marriage-based petitions have been a common pathway to a green card, but USCIS says too many fraudulent or incomplete applications have slipped through. Now, they're cracking down hard. That means if your paperwork isn't perfect, or if you can't prove the authenticity of your relationship in ways the new policy demands, your application could be delayed for months, sent back for more evidence, or even denied outright. And here's the kicker. Under the new guidance, officers will have more power than ever to request additional documents, re-interview couples, or dig deeper into your personal life. They'll be looking at joint finances, living arrangements, communication history, and even how consistent your story is during the interview. One small slip could raise a red flag. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what's changing, what documents you'll need, and the hidden pitfalls that could get your application rejected before it even reaches the finish line. Whether you're in the early stages of planning your petition or already gathering your evidence, knowing these updates could save you months of stress and thousands of dollars in wasted fees. So stay tuned, because missing this information in 2025 isn't just risky, it could cost you your American dream. Before we dive in, if you care about protecting your green card journey and staying ahead of USCIS changes, make sure to smash that like button. It tells me you want more updates like this, and it helps this information reach others who need it right now. Now, let's dive straight into what's actually happening with this 2025 crackdown and why it matters so much for anyone thinking of applying for a marriage-based green card. When USCIS announced this update, a lot of people thought it was just another small policy adjustment, the kind that comes and goes without major impact. But this time, it's different. The language they used in the official policy guidance is sharper, more serious, and much more focused on rooting out what they call questionable petitions. That's government speak for applications they suspect might be fake, incomplete, or not backed by enough real evidence. And in this climate, even genuine couples can find themselves caught in the net. So, what's behind this sudden push? Well, USCIS says they've seen an increase in cases where couples are either rushing through the process without preparing the right documents, or in some unfortunate situations, trying to skirt the system entirely. Now, while everyone agrees that fraud is a problem, the tricky part is that the new rules don't just target bad actors, they raise the bar for everyone. That means even legitimate couples will have to jump through more hoops, spend more time gathering evidence, and prepare for a far more intense review process. And if you think this is just going to be a little extra paperwork, think again. The new guidance allows immigration officers to look deeper into your private life than ever before. Imagine you and your spouse sitting in a USCIS interview room. The officer has your application in front of them, but now, under the August 2025 rules, they also have a longer checklist of what counts as convincing proof that your marriage is real. They're not just glancing at your wedding photos or looking at your joint lease agreement anymore. They're comparing your answers to your spouse's answers. They're looking for consistency in timelines. They're asking for proof of ongoing shared finances. And they're evaluating whether your life together looks like a real, lived-in marriage. And if something doesn't add up, they have the authority to issue what's called an RFE, request for evidence, or even schedule you for a second, more in-depth interview, sometimes referred to as a Stokes interview, which is much more intensive. And let me be clear, these officers aren't just looking for blatant fraud. They're also on the hunt for insufficient evidence, which can be a killer for many applications. You could be in the most genuine, loving marriage, but if your paperwork is thin, or if your photos don't tell a convincing story, or if your financial records don't show enough interconnection between you and your spouse, USCIS can and will slow down your case. And in immigration, time is everything. A delay of several months can mean work permits expire, travel plans are ruined, and stress levels go through the roof. Now, here's where things get even more complicated. Under the old system, there was a little more flexibility. If you forgot a document or your evidence wasn't as strong as it could be, you might still get through after some back and forth. But starting in August 2025, the tone shifts. The policy encourages officers to make faster, firmer decisions when they think a case is weak. That means less room for back and forth and more outright denials. And let's be honest, once you get a denial, the road back is long, expensive, and emotionally exhausting. This is why preparation has never been more important. I know it might sound dramatic, but you need to think of your marriage green card application as a legal presentation of your life together. Every document, every photo, every piece of evidence should be telling the same consistent story, that your marriage is real, ongoing, and built on genuine commitment. USCIS officers are trained to spot gaps, contradictions, or anything that looks staged. If you and your spouse met online, be ready to show your chat history and travel records. If you've been living together, have your lease, utility bills, and joint bank statements ready. And yes, they might even want to see things like shared insurance policies or proof that you've met each other's families. And here's something a lot of people overlook: your social media presence. While USCIS doesn't officially say they monitor your profiles, there have been plenty of stories of officers asking about posts, photos, or public information that contradicts what's in your application. If you say you live together, but your Facebook check-ins show you in different states most of the time, that's a problem. If your Instagram shows you on vacation with someone who isn't your spouse, even innocently, it could raise questions. In this era, you have to remember that your digital life is part of your evidence, whether you intend it to be or not. Now, I know all this might sound intimidating, and it is, but here's the upside. If you take the time to prepare thoroughly, you can actually make the new rules work in your favor. Strong applications stand out, and when officers have everything they need to make a decision quickly, your case can move faster. Think of it like this: USCIS is tightening the rules to weed out bad cases, but that also means they'll reward well-prepared ones by moving them along without unnecessary delays. That brings us to the big question: what exactly counts as stronger documentation under the August 2025 rules? The short answer is more of everything and more variety. They want to see your relationship from multiple angles: financial, social, legal, and personal. And they want it to look natural, not like you scrambled to pull it together the week before applying. If you're just starting your marriage, start building that paper trail now. Open a joint bank account, put both names on bills, take photos in everyday situations, and keep records of trips you take together. The earlier you start, the easier it will be when it's time to apply. But even with all this preparation, you have to be ready for the interview. This is where a lot of genuine couples stumble, not because they're hiding anything, but because they underestimate how detailed the questions can get. Under the new rules, officers will be trained to look for subtle inconsistencies, things like how you describe your first date, what you did for your last anniversary, or who cooks in the house. If you and your spouse give slightly different answers, that can be enough to trigger suspicion. So it's not about memorizing a script, but it is about making sure you've talked through your history and daily life so you're both on the same page. And let's not forget, the August 2025 changes also put more emphasis on follow-up reviews. Even after your initial approval, if USCIS later suspects something is off, they can reinvestigate, especially during the removal of conditions phase for conditional green cards. That means your consistency over time matters just as much as your initial application. This isn't a one-and-done deal. It's an ongoing process of proving that your marriage is genuine. So, what does this all mean for you, the applicant? It means you need to approach this process like a marathon, not a sprint. Rushing through your application to just get it in is a recipe for disaster. Instead, slow down, get organized, and think strategically. Ask yourself, if someone who doesn't know me at all looked at my file, Would they be convinced my marriage is real? Would they see enough evidence to feel confident approving my case without hesitation? If the answer is anything less than a solid yes, you're not ready to submit. I've seen couples who thought they had plenty of proof get blindsided because they didn't realize how much more USCIS expects now. And I've also seen couples sail through the process because they took the time to understand the rules and prepare accordingly. The difference isn't luck, it's preparation. In 2025, that preparation has to be deeper, more thorough, and more intentional than ever before. The bottom line is this: the August 2025 USCIS crackdown is real, and it's going to change the game for marriage-based green card applicants. But if you're proactive, detail-oriented, and honest, you can still succeed, and maybe even have a smoother experience than you expected. In the rest of this video, we're going to walk through real-life examples, look at the most common mistakes that trip people up, and talk about practical ways to bulletproof your application under the new rules. So grab a pen, take some notes, and get ready, because the information I'm about to share could be the difference between approval and a rejection letter.